Yeah, this is the real world here. And the free world here. Here's the problem. There is tremendous benefit to be gained by the George Bushes and the whole bunch of them. You know, basically, I mean, the Ronald Reagan is no longer with us, but the followers of Ronald Reagan, the Phil Grahams of the world, the very, very wealthy political insider, power broker bunch, who Republicans, who drove our country into massive debt. And they did it, you know, David Stockman back in the day when he was budget director for the Reagan administration, talked about this as the starve the beast syndrome, the beast being giving money to poor people and middle-class Americans. You know, we can't have that. That's a terrible thing. So we've got to run the government into such terrible, terrible debt that it can't afford to have Social Security, that we'll have to do away with it, that there's no possibility that we'll be able to afford a national health care program. And on and on. In other words, just to make all of this stuff impossible because we're broke. And they did it. When Reagan came into office, our debt was under $1 trillion. Now it's pushing 10. We may have a deficit this year, which adds to the debt of a full $1 trillion between the bailout and the war in Iraq. You know, not to mention just the normal deficit that we've been having ever since Reagan came into office. So there is some advantage to these guys in having hyperinflation because you get to pay off that debt with dollars that aren't worth as much. And there's a lot of creditors around the world, a lot of people who hold U.S. debt, the Chinese, the Saudis in particular, these two, but many others, who are not unaware of this. And at the first sign that we're going to try to inflate our way out of our debt, they're going to run like crazy, and our system has the possibility of crashing the same way Argentina's did 2 decades ago, or a decade and a half ago. On the other hand, if Bernanke does nothing, if he maintains high interest rates, if he continues to try to fight an inflation that doesn't exist, then we've got, you know, a disaster wrapped within a disaster. All of this, by the way, can be tracked back to Reaganomics. This is where it all began. 28 years ago, Ronald Reagan and his merry band of pranksters, you know, from Laffer to Stockman, I mean, the whole bunch of them, the Grover Norquist crowd, they figured, okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to starve the beast. We're going to kill government, because government, after all, you know, it's not a good thing.
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
Got to do away with that nasty thing called government. Right? I feel it's amazing to see Republicans for 28 years now, run on the platform of destroying the institution that they seek to be a part of. But that's what they've been doing, and Americans have been, oddly enough, buying it. And so they have broke us, just like Bush broke FEMA, so Brownie could do a heck of a job. Just like he's trying to break the EPA, they have broken our bank. They've broken our economic system. And now Bernanke is struggling. In 2000, he gave a speech in which he said, we don't have to worry about deflation. In other words, there's no depression coming. We got to worry about inflation caused by this huge debt. So what's he doing right now? He's dealing with deflation, which is where dollars become more and more dear, more and more hard to get. And it's a weird kind of deflation because you're seeing the price of gold go up right now while the number of dollars in circulation is increasing, and yet the price of everything else is falling. It's all totally counterintuitive. Normally when the price of things falls, that means that dollars are becoming more valuable. When the price of things increase, it means dollars are less valuable. Right? There's that inverse relationship. But right now you've got dollars. Well, cash is king was the phrase from the Great Depression. It's becoming the phrase again. But this is a really, really tough one. And, you know, U.S. Treasury bills last week, Treasury yields even turned negative. This from the Lex column in today's Financial Times. The only reason anyone would choose to lose money, which is what you do if you buy treasuries right now, is because they have to, due to index rules, fiduciary obligations, or to keep their jobs. But such forced buying, says the Financial Times in the Lex column today, is a sign of another bubble. The main argument why this bubble could yet inflate further is Japan. And then they talk about how Japan had a similar situation, but Japan chose not to do what Bernanke is doing. They didn't pour money on the fire, as it were. And so they've had a recession for a decade. But they didn't slide into the Great Depression, and they are not experiencing hyperinflation. It looks like, thanks to the wise folks in the Bush administration and wise advisors from the Clinton administration like Robert Rubin and the idiots from the Reagan administration, we may experience both. 27 minutes past the hour.